Officer had to tase an inmate, and his camera wasn't working. It was on, but it didn't record. Fortunately, the second officer had his on. But to answer your initial question is yes. We're already in compliance with that. We technically don't have to be using body cameras for an agency our size until I believe 2025. We've been doing it for 10 years. We want to go ahead and stay in the 21st century.
According to the sheriff, there are going to be several benefits to the system they're purchasing, including the cameras automatically triggering on with several incidents happening within a vehicle. The funds will be used again through the American Recovery Act plan or through ARPA funds. Get the latest in local news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. While you're there, get signed up for our free weekly e-newsletter that goes out on Friday afternoons, and you can get signed up for it again at DeWittDailyNews.com. It is 26 minutes ahead of the hour here on this Monday morning. We start the new work day and the new work week under mostly clear skies in Clinton this morning. It is 35 degrees, feels like 34 outside.
Local information that makes a difference. Here's your regional weather.
Today, partly sunny, temperatures around 50 degrees, a south wind at about 10 miles an hour. Wind gusts today around 25 miles per hour. Should be a really, really nice last day of February here in central Illinois. 30 degrees under clear skies tonight. West winds at 15 miles an hour. And again, lows in the overnight tonight around 30 degrees. Not as cool on your first day of March. Clouds and sun, highs of 60. It'll feel like 55 outside. West-southwest winds at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wednesday, mostly sunny, still mild. Temperatures in the mid-50s. Cool down Thursday. Temperatures in the upper 30s under cloudy skies. Breezy in the afternoon on Thursday. East-northeast winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Friday, cloudy and a bit more mild again. Temperatures in the upper 40s. East-northeast winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Across central Illinois as we roll through this Monday morning, right now partly cloudy skies. Temperatures in Bloomington at 39 degrees, 38 in Hayworth, 39 in Leroy, 37 in Farmer City, 38 in Champaign, 38 in Monticello, 38 in Decatur, 38 in Mount Pulaski, 41 in Springfield, and 37 in Peoria. Again in Clinton, 35 degrees. Feels like 34 outside under partly cloudy skies. Winds from the south at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Right now, 78% humidity, 10 miles of visibility this morning. Weather anytime is at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Shop local first.
The economic health of our community rests with each of us, with our own pocketbooks. Economists tell us that the dollar spent at a local store is spent multiple times before it leaves our local area. From $1, you create $5 to $14 in value within the local area. The Miller Media Group and this local business encourage you to shop local first. First National Bank and Trust in Clinton. Do more with your money at First National Bank and Trust, member FDIC. This local business and the Miller Media Group ask you to shop local first.
Shop local first.
ServPro of Piatt DeWitt Counties is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of WHOW Clinton Maroon Player of the Game. Announced at the end of every Maroon sports broadcast, our WHOW announcing staff will select that night's WHOW ServPro Piatt DeWitt Counties Clinton Maroon Player of the Game, whose play will be highlighted in each WHOW Maroon post-game broadcast, and that player receives a certificate. ServPro of Piatt DeWitt Counties, make it like it never happened. Find out their services by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hey, this is Todd Gleason from Illinois Extension here with a time change for our daily market report on WHOW. You can now catch our daily review of the commodity markets at 5:06 on all of WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
You're listening to The Morning Show, streamed by clicking the WHOW live icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and the WHOW Morning Show streams live to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Joining me on this segment of the morning show is Dr. Lindsey Hall. She is the superintendent of Mahomet Seymour Schools. A good morning to you, Dr. Hall. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate being here.
Yeah, definitely. We always appreciate you making time with us. And busy Friday night for you and the folks within the Mahomet Seymour Athletic Department. You had two basketball teams, one at a sectional final, the other at a regional final. And it sounds like both went rather well. Dr. Hall, tell us about the success of your sports teams here so far.
Yeah, we had an epic weekend. I'm so proud of our community and our student athletes and our coaches. For the first time in history, our girls basketball team won a sectional championship, and they're headed to the super sectional tonight. You know, they're in the Elite Eight, which is just an amazing accomplishment, no matter what, whatever the circumstances are. And our boys team on Friday night won the regional championship. They're off to play in the sectional tournament at Danville High School this week. And our high school wrestling team secured third place in state at the Class 2A team duels, an amazing accomplishment there. And our junior high wrestlers won the regional for IESA. And then in a sport that probably doesn't get enough attention as it should, one of our high school students qualified for the IHSA state diving competition, and we're really proud of Max Katz. He's the first Bulldog ever to do that, and really proud of how he represented us all season and at the state swimming and diving tournament. So, there's a lot of other extracurriculars that, it's not just about athletics, but it is just about how a community supports its children and the great coaches and kids and parents that we have here. So super fun times, and just a really positive way to put an exclamation point at the end of February, which can be a hard month. And, when I think back, Seth, a year ago where we were with extracurriculars, we were kind of limping through with these abbreviated seasons. And a year ago, we were getting ready to start football.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to have it all back on track and then also be so blessed to have the success is just so happy for our kids.
For sure.
Community.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to all those
Thank
individuals and everything going on there. And so with that, Dr. Hall, another busy week, with the basketball rolling right along and all of those things. So best of luck to the teams moving forward as well. I'm sure.
Thanks.
A lot of aspirations there for those individuals. Dr. Hall, let's dive into it. Not only has it been a busy time in terms of sports and everything, but there's been a lot for you to keep up with in terms of this COVID situation. And it feels like just about every week there's something new out in terms of kind of dominoes falling in this battle for local control to return to school districts. I know a lot of the conversation really evolves around masking, but I think at an overarching theme here, Dr. Hall, is school districts just want to be able to make their own decisions. How about that?
Yeah, true. So true. And, February was an interesting month. We had some, severe weather, which makes things interesting. But of course, some major court decisions surrounding some of the governor's decisions and executive orders. And then, of course, today the mask mandate is dropped in the state. There's a few exceptions, healthcare facilities and things like that, which makes sense. But at the same time, late Friday afternoon, Governor Pritzker also said that the mask mandate for schools was was officially dropped, although my Board of Education voted to go mask optional about 3 weeks ago. So it has been a roller coaster ride. I have to say that I think that public schools in Illinois have been put in an untenable position for really the last 2 years, and it finally feels like we are emerging to brighter days and just less overlay of state guidance and the opportunity to make our own decisions locally. And combined with it, we shouldn't forget to mention that the cases of COVID, at least where I'm at, have been just dropping dramatically, which is great news as well. At least the one, I assume that we have the cases of COVID that we know about, and then we have a whole bunch that people are just taking care of on their own by staying home when they're sick, which is what they should do. And so it just feels like a weight has been lifted, and that's a really, really good thing as we enter into springtime and just can, after 2 years, hopefully be emerging from the pandemic.
Sure.
And moving ahead. So yeah, local control wins.
Well, and Dr. Hall, this is really kind of the first conversation that I'm having with superintendents in Illinois where this, it feels like we have a resolution. There's no more waiting, there's no more appeals, there's no more decisions. So when I thought about this, as I prepared to talk with you this morning, and then as I look forward to talking with your peers in Central Illinois, one question I want to ask, and I don't mean to make this sound so harsh from your perspective, but really in a way you're kind of washing your hands of the situation because you're going to be retiring at the end of the the fiscal year and things of that nature. So maybe this question doesn't not to say it doesn't mean as much to you, but perhaps your perspective is a little different than your peers will be. But how do Illinois school leaders and school boards and the like, all these stakeholders, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again, where you have just top-handed over the top mandates that dictate what every single district across the state does, regardless of local situations and local circumstances? How do you keep this from happening again?
Well, at the top of the list, and this might sound like a broad generalization and not really very specific, but go vote in elections. I mean, I don't know. These are publicly elected officials who are making these decisions, and we are privileged to have the opportunity to vote in this country. And when we see some of the world events that are going on right now, I don't want to go down some political road here, but the essence of democracy is the opportunity to vote, and we have that. And so at a very minimum, exercise your right and your privilege to go and make choices at the voting booth for who is going to make decisions that impact us. Moving ahead, I just hope that there is deep reflection on the lessons that were learned from the pandemic as far as public schools were concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back to just saying that I believe that public schools in Illinois were put in such a difficult, unfair position with some of the guidelines, protocols, mandates that we were expected to follow, which were nearly impossible, and which in some cases were not mandated across the state in a blanket way. We have a very, very diverse state in so many ways, and that goes also for how COVID spread and the cases of COVID. And when this all started, there were areas of high transmission, and then there were areas of zero transmission, yet we're all expected to follow the same rules.
Right.
And so I would hope and wish for just reflection on how this all rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right words. I just hope someone just appreciates the significance of how difficult the decisions were for public schools. I don't mean just me as a superintendent. I'm talking about everyone who works in a public school. I mean, teachers were burdened with decision-making related to COVID, principals, superintendents, custodians, bus drivers, the whole the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
And so I just, think that our boards are elected to be able to exhibit local control and take into consideration all the factors that make up a local context.
Mhm.
School districts have different relationships with their unions that have to be considered, with their community, with their health departments. I also think it warrants being examined how differently different county health departments behaved throughout COVID. I mean, there were huge discrepancies with that made this very difficult too. And of course, those health departments report to IDPH. And so, those are all just the thoughts I have now. And I guess the biggest thing is to just hope and pray we don't ever have to go through it again.
Dr. Lindsey Hall is the superintendent of Mahomet Seymour Schools, my guest on the phone here for this morning. Dr. Hall, to your point about, reflection and, as it relates to how this was handled and those sorts of things, for folks out there that follow the happenings at the state level closely and more specifically as it relates to kind of ISB and the legislature and its mandates on Illinois schools, this really is not anything new. This isn't novel. The state has for years and years and years been bringing down mandate upon mandate upon mandate on school districts. And in a way, some may disagree with this, but it's my opinion, in a way, they have gradually been wearing away at the idea of local control within schools. You have to do this, you have to teach that, you have to put this in your buildings. And it's really, to a degree, really worn away at the institution of local control at a school board level. And I think a lot of folks in the last few years have kind of woken up to that mentality that the state of Illinois has over its education system.
Yeah, you make an excellent point, Seth, in that public schools in Illinois have for decades been faced with mandates, but the key part of that is not only mandates but unfunded mandates. So there's a lot that's laid on us that we must follow, yet very little funding specifically to implement some of the things that we're supposed to do. Just one small example I'll share very quickly, and it might not seem like a big deal, from the outside looking in, but by the 2027-28 school year, foreign language is supposed to become a requirement at all high schools in Illinois. So, okay, in theory, great idea. Nothing wrong with knowing a second language at all. In fact, it's a great thing. But when it comes down to the reality and the practicality of implementing this, first of all, there are no foreign language teachers to hire right now.
Right.
And that in and of itself, that is part of the huge problem of the teacher shortage we have, which is directly related to some of the crazy rules that Illinois has for teacher licensure.
Well,
that's
and
one part of the problem.
And if I don't mean to interject and interrupt you, Dr. Hall, but if I may add to that, okay, that's one small example, but there are countless countless like mandates of those things. And when you put one small example upon one small example upon one small example, in continuum, you are literally putting a massive burden on these schools. It's like, oh, well, this is just one little thing, but it's been one little thing year over year over year. It's ridiculous. And I don't mean to take this into an entirely different rabbit hole, but it's the reality of how the state of Illinois has come to, really gradually, take away local control.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Chipping away at it little by little, and your point is extremely well taken. Just that it's just these small things but there's so many. There's multiple of those every single year. I mean, there are thousands of bills introduced that every year, not every decade, not every every single year, there are thousands of bills introduced that will impact public schools.
The worst part about it, Dr. Hall, I shouldn't say the worst part about it. Part of it is, it's all well intended, right? There's not this idea in Springfield where it's like we're trying to pull back local control. We're not trying to repeal this little by little. Perhaps there is if you're a real cynic, but that's not the intent. But however, when you start to do that, kind of in perpetuity, like you're talking about there, that's where it becomes overbearing, and a lot of legislators just don't understand that, I venture a guess.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, I know that there have been years in the past where there have been pleas from various organizations that advocate for public schools just to say, hey, how about if there would be just a 1-year break on introducing more laws that impact public schools? I mean, just a year of that. And so it's very frustrating, and certainly in some ways in many ways all of the mandates that were related to COVID are just simply reflective of kind of the over legislation of so many things in our state, but in particular as relates to public schools.
100%. Well, Dr. Hall, forgive me. This conversation went way beyond what I really wanted it to, but I thought it was a really good conversation. So let's take a break here, come back with some more. Dr. Lindsey Hall is the superintendent of Mahomet Seymour Schools, my guest on the phone, and we've got a lot more with her coming your way on the morning show, which again streams live to Facebook and YouTube, and it's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the morning show.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat all starting today, double-digit higher. March corn, 687 and a quarter, up 27 and 3/4. May corn up 27, 682 and 3/4. December corn starting today, 595 and 3/4, up 16. March beans, 1633 and a quarter, up 43. May beans up 39 and a quarter, 1623 and 3/4. November beans, 1437, up 22. March wheat, 897 and a quarter, up 54 and a quarter. May wheat up 45 and 3/4, 905 and a half. July wheat starting today, 891 and a half, up 41 and a half. March bean meal, 450.80, up 250. And March bean oil, 71.75, up $3. Look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade for this Monday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
New trucks and SUVs are coming here at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. This is Scott Baum. Yes, we have new inventory arriving, and you can see what will arrive right on our website. Just click on the pre-order and reserve tab. From there, you will find vehicles in transit and vehicles in production. Or just call our sales staff and we'll help. Find Silverados, Equinoxes, Blazers, including Tahoes and Suburbans, as well as our complete Buick line of SUVs. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
Here's a supply chain update from Dave Jackson, owner of your Clinton Save-A-Lot. As a local store owner, I've learned many lessons from the last 2 years, from keeping my shelves stocked for you to selecting the freshest meat and produce and other items you buy every day. I want you to know that we've utilized our off-site storage facilities to beef up our inventory levels to avoid running out of items you buy. While there's no playbook for what we've all experienced, you have my personal commitment to keep our shelves stocked every day. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
Today's morning show can be heard by downloading the free WHOW mobile app in your favorite store.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. And again, my guest on the phone is Dr. Lindsey Hall. She's the superintendent of Mahomet Seymour Schools. And Dr. Hall, we talk about all the exciting developments of, the sports programs and the extracurriculars and all those things, kids getting to take their masks off in school, from their perspective and their family's perspectives, the excitement that is brought to bear. But also, I know in the last several months, among the many things on your plate has been a seeking out community support for improving your facilities, and there's been some more movement there. Tell us about this, Dr. Hall.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so you've been kind enough to give me some time here in the past couple of months, really over the past year, to talk about Bulldog Blueprint And that's our community engagement initiative focused on developing a long-term facilities master plan. And we've really transitioned into the next stage with this process. Our board voted last Tuesday evening to put a referendum on the ballot on June 28th. And so we're super excited about this possibility and taking the question now to our voters. And, they will be asked to make a decision on a almost $98 million bond issue that would build a new 6th to 8th grade building, as well as increasing capacity at our other 3 buildings and moving our transportation department, and also addressing the highest priority physical needs in all of our buildings. And so our job as the school district over the next couple of months is to educate our taxpayers and encourage them to go vote. It's an important election for a lot of reasons. It is the Illinois primary, so there's a lot on the ballot that's very important to the future of our state and to the future of the Mahomet Seymour School District. So very excited about that.
Briefly, Dr. Hall, speak to us about how the district will go about informing the community, making sure they're well aware of, everything, the ins and outs of this proposal, and, making the most informed decision they can. What are your plans for that?
Absolutely. Well, I've done this a couple times in some other school districts, and I can tell you that it just takes, it's a lot of fun. It's fun work. It's the opportunity to get out, to talk to people, to talk to all kinds of different groups, to utilize every tool we have in the communication toolbox. That includes going door to door and just getting information out so that people can make an informed decision. So we'll pull out all stops, and that takes a lot of effort to educate the taxpayers in any school district, and we want to make sure that people have the information that they need to make an informed decision. So it'll be a multi-pronged approach over the next couple of months for sure.
Very good. Dr. Hall, is the Bulldog Blueprint website still up and running? Can folks check out details there?
Yep, absolutely. That would be the first place that I would point people for just a wealth of information, bulldogblueprint.com.
Awesome. Dr. Hall, it's always good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for making time for us. Dr. Lindsey Hall is the superintendent of Mahomet Seymour Schools, my guest on the phone. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM, W290.